Alrighty, welcome to our first video lecture here that will be going on this year. This one right here is a test to see how our new equipment is working. Um, the focus of this lecture here is to review the first three sections of Chapter 0. We took a pre-test on this in class, and we're going to take a quiz on it next week. We started out talking about word problems, okay, and how to estimate problems as far as adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. And that's the kind of thing we're going to look at here in these first three sections. We start off here, you'll notice this is page 8 in the book, and it's their plan to, or a plan to solve word problems. Okay, we talked about this in class. Word problems are things you need to learn how to do because you're going to see these types of things all throughout your life. Okay, what they talk about here in the plan is to, first thing you got to do is when you're solving word problems, you got to read it. To understand it, you have to read it. Okay. As an example in this problem, the average American consumes 23.2 quarts of ice cream. In north central United States, each of those does 18.5 quarts more. Okay. So the question is how much ice cream is consumed every year by Americans in the north central United States? To get an understanding of this, usually what you'll see in most word problems is the first couple of sentences are giving you the information that you'll need to solve it, to solve the problem. And what they want you to solve is usually the last sentence. Okay, and here they want to know how much ice cream is consumed every year by Americans in north central United States. So once we've read it, we understand what we're trying to find now. Okay, then we got to come up with a plan. That plan's going to entail going back and looking at the facts that they give you in the problem. Okay, and it tells you here that the Americans in the north central United States eat 18.5 quarts more ice cream than a normal American, which is 23.2. So our plan here, more than, we're going to add, so we're going to add these two together. So you're just going to solve 23.2 plus 18.5. Okay, and then you can always go back and check your problems and make sure they're right. Although this is in the first section, this is something we're going to do throughout the year. You're going to do this every year in math. Okay, you got to get better at solving word problems. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at estimating. Let me erase this right here. We're going to look at estimating problems two different ways. Okay, the first way we're going to look at estimating is this right here. Get this to roll down. Seems like we're kind of locked in here. It doesn't want to scroll. Here we go. Okay. First thing we've done that we talked about in class here is we want to solve here by rounding. Okay. When we add, subtract, it's pretty straightforward. Round to the nearest whole number and add or subtract. The idea here when we have to estimate is we want to be able to do mental math. Okay. If we have to use a calculator on any of this, then you might as well find the exact answer. For us to find the estimated answer, we want to round. Okay, like it says here, round each number to the nearest unit so that we can do mental math here. If it's multiplication or division, sometimes we're not rounding it to the nearest whole number. Like in class when we did the pre-test, if you're taking 96 and you're going to, if you're taking 96.4 and we're going to divide it by 24.6, it's a whole lot easier to estimate if you would round the 96.4 to 100 and divide it by the 25 to get 4. That's mental math that we can do in our head. Okay? Most of you guys showed that you're pretty good with that in class. And again, that's something we will continue to work with throughout here. Okay? The other way they talked about, we talked about this in class, was to graph by or estimate by clustering. Okay? In the last page, they gave us the graph, the bar graph that had the attendance for each of these 4 parks. Okay, and it was in the millions. So for the Grand Canyon, 4.4 million showed up last year, and the Yosemite 3.3, and so on. Okay, because these numbers are close together right here, okay, we can cluster when we estimate here. And clustering only works, the strategy is used when all the numbers are close to a common value. So the 4 here represents the 4 numbers that are here. The 3 million comes from, if you were to average these or round these, you're looking for a number that's kind of in the middle of them. 4.4 would round to 4, but each of these 3 down here would all round to 3. So they said, well, let's say the average is 3 million for each of these. So 4 times 3 means we estimate 12 million was the attendance last year for these 4 national parks. Okay, so clustering only works when you got a group of numbers that are roughly about the same, and whatever they're close to, okay, kind of like an average, but we're even rounding that. Just whatever's close to them, like these are all close to 3 million. So 4 times 3 gives us the 12. You don't see clustering a whole lot. We usually just round each number and then add, subtract, multiply, or divide. That's how it's done most of the time. Okay? And then the last thing we're going to talk about here, as soon as I get the page to come up, all right, come on. I told you this is a test video. We're just going to see how everything's going to turn out. Technology is always fun to work with when it's working. And when it doesn't work or things like this happen, we just got to roll with it. Sometime here we go. Okay. Multiplying decimals. We looked at this in class also. And pretty straightforward. When we did this on the pretest, nobody really had any problem with it, except for one thing. Multiplying the numbers, okay, you multiply like you always would. You can see in this example here, you're going to take the 5 and multiply it by the 4. 5 times 4 is 20, 2 to carry. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2, there's your 12, so you get 120. And 7 times 4 is 28, there's your 8. Carry the 2 again. 7 times 2 is 14, plus the 2 is 16. You got everything in the proper columns. We get 1800 here. And because the decimal point is here, it's not moved, but here it's 2 places. You got to move the decimal point 2 places in your answer. Okay. Once we showed that in class, most of you picked that kind of stuff up. You're okay with it. You look at the check problem down here. The koala eats 1.125 pounds of eucalyptus leaves a day. How many pounds would they eat in 5 days? So 5 times that. 1.125 times the 5. Okay. 5 times 5 is 25. There's your 5, 2 to carry. 5 times 2 is 10, plus your 2 is 12. So that's 2, 1 to carry. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. And 5 times 1 is 5. Okay? Then you look at your problem here and you say, okay, my decimal point in this problem was moved 1, 2, 3 places. It's not moved at all here, so I got to move 1, 2, 3, a total of 3 here. If it was also moved over here, I would just add that to the number of places here and move it all the way over. Okay? And you can see by looking at the answer there that they're the same. All right, so that's our test video here, first time out the box. Chapter 0, sections 1, 2, and 3. We'll be quizzing on this next week. Hopefully this is helpful. Please give me feedback on what you see. I'm always looking to improve this kind of stuff. I'll do this a number of different ways. It's not always going to be like this using the book. I'm just trying to incorporate some different technologies here and see how things are going to work. All of this we've gone over in class. And so hopefully this is something you can just go back on and refresh yourself with. All right, great. You guys have a good one. We'll see you in class. Bye-bye.